Well, we'd already made a video about Kemi Badenoch's 100 days of failure. About she'd been the business and trade secretary for over 100 days, and yet she had nothing really to show for it. She has had 100 days of failure. Nothing good has really happened for her. Most of the stuff that has happened has, well, been because of Liz Truss. I mean, yeah, she got the delight of having to, wake up at 2 in the morning so that she could do the big presentation of we're joining the CPTPP, whatever, the Pacific Partnership. And then meanwhile, continue to get absolutely rinsed for, well, basically showing projections which were overestimating the economic benefits of this deal. Bear in mind, the ones she was showing were 0.08, when in reality, from what we can see, because, well, they changed the formula to, well, make it look better, it was in reality 0.04%. So she added a 0.4% to try and make her big grandioso deal look better. But why are we talking about Kemi Badenoch again? We could, and that was maybe my plan to go over her being absolutely rinsed at this recent select committee. But I think recently, to be honest, it's better really to discuss why Kemi Badenoch got to the position where she is in, and discuss why this once rising star in the Conservative Party has suddenly come crashing back down to earth. So, before we do get into discussing about all that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And there is the YouTube thank you button. And of course, the Pony Club you can join down below as well. So, Kemi Badenoch. Where did she come from? Well, no one had heard of Kemi Badenoch, of course, really until Michael Gove pretty much plucked her from obscurity to stand in what would be the first big Tory leadership contest. And why was she chosen? Well, if you were really into following politics and you followed pretty much every MP there was out there, constantly, watching them with your binoculars for any slight move, tweet, or anything that they put out, you would know that she was a massive culture war warrior. That was what she was good at. That's what she spoke about. That's what she was constantly on. Culture war, culture war, culture war, culture war. And a lot of people said this is why Gove chose her. He chose her to see how much of this culture war stuff was, shall we say, vote winning, so that maybe one day he too could have a run at leadership and maybe mix in, have a bit of sprinkle of the culture war stuff to see how far that would get him. And of course, she managed to get to the third round of the leadership contest. Eventually, Penny Mordaunt managed to sort of get more votes than her, and she was taken out. But by that point, her star had risen. She was now known a known MP. Because to be honest, there are lots of MPs in sort of, the House of Parliament. You don't know who they are. You know that you're probably your MP, but some of them don't really get up to a lot of stuff. They're not really that high profile, typical stuff. If you worked in a big business, you don't really not necessarily going to know everyone that works in that business. You might never have met anyone who ever, I don't know, maybe works in accounting, although could you name every single person in your accounting department now? By the way, it doesn't count if you're already working in the accountancy firm, but there you go. So that's why she was chosen, to see. She was an air balloon put up by Gove to see how successful this culture war stuff was. And it was initially seized upon by, well, at that time, Rishi Sunak, that she might be a person he hoped of quality, someone who might be able to get the job done as a business secretary. Because, again, one of the things that she had been heavily involved in and why Gove chose her was that she was junior minister in his levelling up department. That's why they knew each other. And he felt that her time at that gave her enough support to be a top level cabinet minister. Bear in mind, Badenoch is very, very new. She was one of the 2019 intake, I believe she was. So she had never held a cabinet position before Rishi Sunak gave her one. The only junior position she had held had been under the levelling up committee under Michael Gove. So she has almost next to no big cabinet experience. But recently, with the somewhat, shall we say, changing of the retained EU law bill, and the fact that she had continuously dodged going to the European Select Committee, she angered a lot of Conservative MPs and made no friends. Indeed, her once rising star, being second in the Conservative Home leadership polls, plummeted drastically down to 8th place. I think she dropped. So that is a substantial amount of popularity to lose. And that's with a non-parliamentary party. And bear in mind how she handled herself in that, shall we say, that exchange of those questions did not make her any friends. She came across as arrogant, and she even riled up Lindsay Hoyle, if you may remember that one. And now, of course, pardon me, the recent one was what you can see here. She went before the European Select Committee to try and answer for what she had done about the retained EU law bill. And she gets absolutely rinsed by her own MPs, by her own Tory MPs, saying, you have failed. You said you would do this. You had all this stuff. You would get rid of all these useless EU laws. But Badenoch is there firing back, saying, I won't be an arsonist. I won't get rid of laws because you tell me to. I'm doing this because I want to serve the will of the people. You know, they've put me in charge, although, well, Rishi Sunak put her in charge, but that's another. So I won't do this, which is very interesting because this is a straight up admission that all these EU laws and regulations actually do serve a purpose, which is one thing we've talked about on this channel a lot. But once again, her performance in this select committee has not won her any friends. Indeed, there are a lot of people who were dubbing her the next Margaret Thatcher in her rise to prominence. That's what they were calling her. But now, the way that she has acted in not only the parliamentary questions, but also in the select committee has raised a lot of questions of if she was under the constant pressure of being, so for prime minister, being bombarded by questions, could she keep her cool? Would she be able to keep her cool in PMQs? You know, losing your rag at the opposition leader or being in opposition and losing it at the PM is not a good look. And at least Margaret Thatcher knew this herself and would keep her outbursts behind closed doors so that no one could see it. Because there is a time to lose your temper and a time not to. And the thing is, she keeps on coming across as being really arrogant and almost seemingly on the verge of well, really being angry. Even in this select committee, where, again, her own fellow Tory MP is asking legitimate questions. She's not happy about being put under this pressure, under this spotlight. So if you can't handle that pressure, why on earth would anyone who was supporting you as being maybe a future PM, why would anyone support you now? You've shown you do not have the capabilities to survive the pressure that spotlight would put on you. So very, very quickly, this once rising star of Kemi Badenoch has come crashing back down to earth. And I have to wonder, although I suspect Rishi Sunak won't get rid of her immediately because, well, he doesn't get rid of anyone because he's such a weak prime minister. But I could see if maybe, shall we say, Sunak gets dispatched to what or loses positions or anything like that, that any sort of future Conservative leader would not put her on the front lines and would sort of dispatch her back to the backbenchers, just as what happened to many of the Conservative failures who have had their time to shine in cabinet and then proved to be, well, not very competent at their jobs. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.